Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of admin course. In this one, we are going to discuss about what are custom objects in Salesforce and what are standard objects. And I'll also show you how to create custom objects. So first of all, let's just have a look at the agenda. So we'll start with what are custom objects. We'll then move forward with we'll start with standard objects, then we'll move forward with custom objects, and then we'll see how to create custom objects in the Salesforce org. All right. So before even we get started with custom objects, the first thing that you need to understand is what are objects, right? So if you're not familiar with Salesforce, you might already be knowing what a table is, right? Table as in, let's say for example, let me just give you this example. So let's say I have I have a company and there would be employees working in the company, and these are the few details that every employee will have, right? Because every employee will have an employee ID, they will have first name, last name, they will have some position or their role in the company, and they will have a defined salary, right? So this kind of information where you're going to store, right? So um, if you have previously worked on database or Java or any other language, then you would be familiar with table keyword. Otherwise it's fine if you're not if you're still not getting it. But just imagine that if you have such kind of information available, then where you will be storing this information, right? So you have to maintain a table where so that every time you need some information, you can just go ahead and have a look at the table, and just by looking at the employee ID, you will be able to fetch each and every information about that employee, right? So these tables are called objects in Salesforce. So for example, let's say if I want to store employee data in Salesforce org, then I will have an object for employee, and that object will have all these details in the form of fields. Now again, in table, you call these information as column, right? That employee ID is nothing but a column. Name is a column, position is a column, and salary is a column, right? But then again, in Salesforce, as we are calling the table as object, these columns are called as fields. Okay. So if in Salesforce, if I go to objects, and if I find the employee object, and if on that employee objects, if I want to store all this information, then I should be having all these fields available on the object. Okay. So for now, just keep in mind that object is nothing but a table, right? So Salesforce, when you actually log into your org, if you guys have already explored, you would have seen few objects which are already available in Salesforce, which you can say that they are available, out of the box Salesforce. So for example, accounts, contacts, opportunities, cases, these are few standard objects. Because they are already available along with the Salesforce, account creation, they're available out of the box, so they are called standard objects. And you cannot delete those objects. You can add extra fields in those objects, but you cannot delete whatever is already provided on those objects. Okay. And another point that you have to keep in mind is that Salesforce provides these standard objects based on because these standard objects are very generic as per the standard, any kind of business setup. For example, accounts, or contacts or opportunities. For example, let's say if you start working on a real estate project, right? So in a real estate project, they will have their clients, right? And let's say now you need to store the client data in Salesforce. So client, you can store the client data on account information, right? And then for every client, they will have some point of contacts, right? If you need to contact any client, right? So those clients will have different point of contacts, right? So those you can store on contact object, right? So this is why these standard objects are nothing but these objects are the information that are very generic to most of the business processes, right? But then let's say if you are working on a requirement, and the standard objects that are available in Salesforce are not sufficient, or it's not like, basically setting up or fitting in with your requirement. So in such cases, what you can do is you can create your own custom objects, right? And then once you create your own custom object, you can go ahead and create your own custom fields as per the requirement that you want to store. And then moving forward, I'll also tell you that how you can do other setups after you create the custom objects and the fields. But for now, let's just go to the org and see how the standard object structure looks, and how we can create a custom object and how we can create a custom field. All right, so I'll just move to the org. So this is the org. So first of all, in order to see all the objects or all the tables available in the org, you need to go to Object Manager. So you need to click on the Setup menu, gear icon, then click on Setup. And then here you'll have this option of Object Manager. So for example, if you see these objects that are already here, right, all these are standard objects. Okay, so here also you can see the type of the object. It is mentioned as the standard object. Okay, so let's say for example account. If I go on account, so account is a standard object. Okay, so this is how it looks. The first section of the account object is nothing but the details. This one shows the API name of the object, right? And these are few extra details that are available. And if you want to see all the columns, which in Salesforce we are calling it as fields, if you click on this, you will be able to see all the fields that are available on account object, right? So now the other point is that you need to identify what are the standard fields and what are the custom fields, right? So any field that does not have the underscore C appended are standard fields. For example, name. So name is a standard field, account number is a standard field, account owner ID is a standard field. But for example, this field, right? This field has ACC double underscore C. That means this field is not a standard field. This field was created by someone else, or maybe I created this, but this did not come along with the Salesforce org. All right, so likewise, for example, this is also a custom field, right? So double underscore C stands for custom. Okay, so any field that you see which is appended with double underscore C, that means that's a custom field. Okay, and the same concept go with the object, right? So if I actually click on details and show you, if you see the API name is nothing but it's a unique name to any object or field. And because let's say otherwise you will end up creating a lot of objects in your org, and what if you keep the same API name, then there will be a confusion, right? So API name is to uniquely identify any object, right? So if you're creating, let's say 10 objects in your org, you should be keeping a different API name. The second thing is that the system will actually not allow you to keep the same API name, all right? At least not for the object, but let's say in the field, if I have created a field here, let's say this one. So I can create another field with the same API name, but not on this object. If I go to another object, then I can use the same API name, but not on this object, okay? But let's not just deep dive into that. You, for now, just only remember that anything which is appended with double underscore C is a custom field or custom object. And anything which does not have double underscore C, that is a standard field, okay? So the same thing goes with the account. Here, if you see the API name is account, there is no double underscore C. That means it is a standard object. But let's say if you randomly go to any object and if you open the details and if you see the API name is appended with double underscore C, that means that's a custom object, all right? So let's say for now, the example that I just showed you is for employee, right? Now, let's say I want to create an object where I want to store the employee data, right? So for that, I'm not going to use account object for this. So let's say it's anything any standard object is actually not matching with my criteria or my requirement. So I will go ahead and create a custom object, okay? So to create a custom object, you need to go to Object Manager. And from here, you need to click on Create and then Custom Object. And here you can, so you have to give any name that is makes much sense to you, much more sense to you. So for this, because I want to store employee information, so that is why I'm giving the object name as employee. All right, and this is nothing but plural. So here I will just keep it as employees. And this is fine, this is fine. You can, like, these are the few options that we will discuss in detail. But for example, like, if, like, later on when you create this object and there are a lot of data that you create for this object, and if you want the reporting to be enabled for this object, if you want anybody to go to, like, go ahead and create a report on this object, if you want to allow that functionality for this object, then you have to, like, click over here, like, allow reports. So these are, like, few things that you can do. But for now, all you have to keep in mind is the label name, the plural label, and this is the object API name that, if you would have observed, this came in automatically when I typed this, right? So for now, you're not seeing double underscore C here, but the moment I save the information here and we will navigate and check out the employee object, you will see that double underscore C appended over here, okay? So that is point number one, the object label, plural label, and then object name. This is nothing but the API name. And then here you need to make sure that deployment status is deployed. Okay. And that's all. And let's just click on, let me also, like, allow search will basically allow to, let's say, like, you have created 10 employees and you want to search those employee data. So you can, this is nothing but a global search. So you can, like, just type in the, like, if you remember the employee name, you can type the employee name in the global search, and, like, the result will pop up based on your search, right? But if you don't allow the search, you will not be able to do so. So just click on save. So here it is. Now, if you see it appended double underscore C over here, right? So this is the API name that, like, we got here, like, but while creating, you don't have to type in double underscore C. It will automatically add double underscore C, all right? So this is the employee object or table that just got created. Now, what do we need? We need to create these fields, right? Because I want to store these data on the employee table, right? So I will go ahead and create these fields, right? But before we actually create these fields, I wanted to tell you that what are the data types that you would be requiring in order to create these columns or fields. So for example, employee ID. Employee ID can be, like, of two types. Either it can be just a number like 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that, or employee ID can also be, like, a combination of number or letters. But I don't believe that, like, in any company you would have seen anybody having an ID, like, consisting of number and letters. So this one we are only going to consider as number. So employee ID is nothing but the data type should be a number, right? And then name should be a text, correct? Because, like, you will be using all the characters. So when you are creating the field for name, then you have to select the data type as text. Position is something that is, like, could be like a drop down, right? Because, for example, a position could be like, a developer, tester, consultant, or, like, whatever it could be, like, like, because this one will have, like, if a company has, like, 1,200 employees, those employees will have different positions, right? Or like multiple employees might have the same position. So but it will, like, it is going to be a drop down. It should be a, like, multiple options shown, and then at least you should be able to choose one position for one employee, right? Because one employee will be designated for one position, right? So this is going to be like a drop down, right? So in Salesforce we have a, like, data type called pick list. So that is what that, like, that is the data type that we can use for position. Then salary is again going to be, like, so for salary, right, you don't have to use number. We have a data type called currency, so we can use currency for salary. Okay, so let's just go ahead and, like, try to create these fields. And for now, I'll just show you the, like, the data type, and we'll just go ahead and create these 4 fields. And I'm not going to discuss all other data types. We will, like, discuss it when we actually, like, go ahead and use those. So here, fields and relationships. So if you see here, right, there are few fields which got auto created. Okay, created by ID. This is, like, when we created the object, Salesforce already created these 4 fields: owner ID, created by ID, name, and last modified by ID. And if you observe, none of these fields have double underscore C. That means these are the standard fields that got created along with the creation of this object. Okay, so here now, if you see this already created a name field for me, right? Employee name. So I don't need to create this name field, right? But let's say if you have a requirement of creating separately first name, last name, then you can actually go ahead and, like, do that. But I'm not going to do that because, like, I'm just going to use the standard field in this case. But I still need to create these 3 fields, right? Employee ID, position, and salary. So let's just go ahead and do that. So to create a new field, you need to click on new. and then employee ID, right? So for employee ID, I'm going to choose number. Or there's another thing. You can also choose an auto number, right? So whenever a new employee is created, that employee will get a new ID, like, a new auto-generated number ID. But for now, just for the, your understanding, I'm just going to keep it as number. And then here you need to give the field label. So employee ID. All right. And this is the length. You will not be able to enter more than 18 digits. And that's all. Next. So this is asking me for what profiles I want this field to be visible. Do not worry about this. For now, I'm just going to select all. I will be creating a separate session for this, that what does it mean and how does it work? So for now, just create just select everything. If you're practicing this along with me, click on next. And this is the layout. This also I'm going to explain in a separate session. For now, just select it and then click on save. So here you see employee ID field got created. Okay. Now let's just go ahead and create position and salary. Okay. So I'm going to create a new field, and for position, as I told you, right, that it is going to be a drop down. So it's nothing but a pick list. So I'm going to select a pick list here. And for now, I'm just going to keep some manual options. So this is position. And here I'm going to enter this option is available to enter the values manually. This option is something that you can actually, if you already know what are the positions going to be, you can create a separate list, and then you can use that list, refer that list here. But let's just not go into that right now. I'm just going to enter a few details manually. So let's say developer consultant, you remember, that's it. Okay. And then click on next. Again, the same thing. It is asking the profile visibility, that for which profiles you want this field to be visible. I'm selecting all. This is asking me the layout. So I'm selecting all and then clicking on save. The last one was salary. So let's just create a new one. And for salary, I'm going to select currency. All right. So currency. And here, salary. Okay. And or let's say I've created these details. Now, whenever somebody creates a record for employee, they will be able to enter employee name, employee ID, employee position, and employee salary. And let me show you how you can actually enter data for employees. So here, so right now, if you see that I'm not able to see this option of employee, right? And why is that? Because I have not created a tab for this, right? So basically, in order to access access this particular table, or to have the accessibility to create a record for this, you need to create a tab for this particular object. Okay. So we will we will see that in the next session. For now, this was all about how to create an object and fields for that object. In the next session, we are going to see that how we can actually create a tab for this. By tab, what I mean is this. So if you remember from the previous session, I had created an app called recruiting, right? So if you actually go to that app, so if you see, right, see account, contacts, although these are standard objects, but we are able to see those here, right? Because I had added these objects into this app, right? But so the tabs are already created for this object, and that is why. So for employee, we would need to create another tab. Okay, employee. And once we create the tab, we will be able to see that option over here. Okay. So once I create the tab, I will be able to see that employee option over here. And also, if I want to add that employee option over here, I can do that as well by going to the app and then adding that to the app. But then again, to avoid any confusion, do not worry about it. For this session, only practice how to create a custom object and how to create custom fields, and that is all. All right. So I'll see you in the next session. Till then, keep practicing. Bye-bye.